Carving your signature stamp. Now that my stamp has been allowed to sit for a while and it's not so squishy, we would say it's leather hard, I'm ready to start carving my design into it. As you can see, the marker has faded a little bit, but I can still see it. As the clay dries, when it goes from wet to leather hard to bone dry, the marker will actually disappear completely, so it's actually pretty cool. The tools I want to use to carve my design are going to be my kind of pointed candy apple stick and maybe my needle tools, possibly my smallest loop tool. But this is a pretty small area, pretty fine lines that I'm trying to carve, so I'm going to stick with my more fine pointed tools for this. I'm going to start with the needle tool that was created from my smallest paper clip. So I'm going to begin by carefully tracing over my design. So I'm going to rotate and carve carefully. Now, these lines are much too thin to press as a stamp, so I'm going to go from here and I'm going to make them a little bit thicker. You can even use a sharp pencil to carve as well, but I'm going to go ahead and give this candy apple skewer a try. So I'm going to just kind of follow the lines that I made and drag the tool to make a really smooth indentation. I'm going to be careful to smooth out any little bits that come up. We call that a burr. The clay crumbs, they look like, are actually called burrs. So our goal is to really create smooth carvings. This would be incising, like we learned in our vocab, without having too many of those crumbs or burrs. So I can just kind of scoop them out here and there very carefully. And I can also very gently kind of brush them and smooth them. If you're starting to carve and there's a lot of burrs, lots of crumbs, you might need to wait for your clay to get a little bit more firm. So if that's the case, don't worry, just let it sit out for a little bit longer and come back to it and try again. You do not want to let it sit out until it is leather hard or until it's bone dry, because then you won't be able to carve into it at all. So with this project and everything we do in this class, you'll need to constantly be checking the moisture of your clay to make sure that it is just right. And it's something that we get better and better with recognizing the more and more we use it. So I'm going to continue to carve. Something I might use a loop tool for is to very gently brush those burrs away. I can use the side like so to smooth that out. So I would continue to do this until it was nice and neat. In my design, I had added like some little lines here. I might even add a border, but I will see how I feel about that once it is totally cleaned up. When your design is finished, you will allow it to become bone dry, and once it's bone dry, then you will test it on a fresh piece of clay. You can also, like our step-by-step worksheet showed, this is just a damp sponge, smoothing it out a little bit. You can create details on your stamp. So this is a really nice feature. I would like to see everyone's signature stamp have some decorative elements to the stamp body itself. So I might make some stripes or patterns. In the example from that worksheet, a section was actually carved down. So if I wanted to do something like that, I could block off that section that I would like to carve down. And I could very carefully use my loop tool to remove some of the clay. If the clay that you're scooping off is still nice and soft, you can add it back to your clay bag. You can mix it in with your fresh clay. Every little bit counts, so we want to make sure that we're saving all of the unused clay that we can. So I might switch to my bigger one and start adding details like that. I could then use the back of my popsicle stick to smooth it out. I could also use the rib tool that we made to smooth it out as well. In the example, they even added a hole, so you could like hang it. It could be a hook, or you could put a string through it, and you could use your straw to create a hole for yours as well. So be patient, make sure that your clay is not too soft, not too dry. Make sure that you clean up all of the clay crumbs or burrs, and then once it's totally bone dry and ready to be put to work, you're going to stamp it into a small fresh piece of clay, and we'll see your signature.